Hi everybody, welcome to the afternoon sessions in the business strategy track. My name is Lindsay. I've been working at Shopify for just over 3 years and I was our first researcher in our UX team. And today I lead part of our UX team, including the researchers. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with user research, we're basically modern day spies. We spend our time out in the field with customers, understanding what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. It's our job to get to the root of why they're experiencing certain problems and what they're doing about it themselves, what we can do about it as a business. We then collaborate with the feature teams and management to make sure we're creating the best possible Shopify experiences. Now, over the last 3 years, my team of 10 researchers has been lucky enough to spend thousands of hours interviewing merchants firsthand. So we've spent days and weeks in their retail stores, in their homes, and in their warehouses, understanding how they run their businesses. We've surveyed thousands on their sentiment towards us as a company, and even acknowledging that a significant percentage of online shopping happens while drunk, we've even drunk user tested our checkout. So we've done that because we care about context. We really care about context of use and providing realistic scenarios for how people are using our software. And through this, we've been able to provide strategic guidance for every feature release that Shopify has put out over the last few years. And today, I'd really like to extend some of this information to you. What I want to talk about is what our merchants are telling us about our product, their businesses, and the wider community. I'm going to show you some trends we've been seeing over the last couple of years. And the intention for all this is to help you build your business by helping you develop a fuller picture of the different types of merchants that use our platform and perhaps highlight some key segments that you can capitalize on. Now, you're all here because you're part of the Shopify community. You already know our merchants really well. Some of you started as merchants. So you don't need me to tell you that we're talking about a very diverse, smart, and strong group of individuals. But they're also human. They also have strengths and weaknesses, skill gaps, and insecurities like all the rest of us. And today, I hope we can acknowledge some of the areas where together we can help them meet their goals. Now, at Shopify, we really see the benefit of looking outside our own community and outside our own walls when we're looking to see where we can innovate with businesses. Toby gave a fantastic example of this earlier when he talked about how a few years ago we started to see that merchants were already selling in lots of different places outside Shopify. They were already managing 5 different sets of inventory, 5 different sets of customer queries, and 5 different sets of product images. And over time, this developed into our channel strategy, the creation of a central place to run their business. However, if we'd only looked at usage data from our own platform, we never would have seen what was going on outside our walls. So for us, deciding what to build is all about balance. It's about creating an informed picture of what is going on in the lives of our merchants to identify new opportunities. Now, who do we build for? With over 243,000 merchants on the platform, this is a hard question to answer. And the real figure is more than that, right? Because staff members multiply this figure somewhat. So for many years, our mantra has been to build things that serve the majority of people the majority of the time. And this helps us keep our core platform really simple and easy to use. But when it comes to working out what the important things to build are, we have to consider ourselves a data-informed company. And that's very different from a data-driven company, who Amazon would be a great example of. We don't use data alone to make decisions. It's a constant trade-off. So while it might seem like we simply need to read what merchants are saying on the forums in order to understand what to build, it's not as simple as that. We try wherever possible to avoid band-aid solutions for key core problems. We have to use different ways to see the root problems that our merchants are facing and will face in the future. So for example, when our researchers visit merchant stores, we're looking often for inefficiencies in their business. We're looking to see where they're wasting time, where they're duplicating work, where are they still writing things down on paper. Now this is where you come into the goal of the larger platform. So if it's our goal to make the important things easy and everything else possible, the reason we have over 1,000 apps in the App Store is because each business is unique and has different things that they consider to be important or even show-stopping to the success of their business. The reason we have a huge expert community is because many merchants lack the time and expertise to get their store up and running. You help us achieve these goals by stepping up to fill the niches and the individual requirements of unique businesses. So I want to show you some data that we've been collecting over the last couple of years. And this data is from a couple of samples of about 10,000 merchants collected over the last 3 years. And we'll start with one question around curator versus creator. So for those who haven't heard these terms before, this is kind of the most simplistic way that we talk about the types of merchants and what they sell. So very simply, a curator is somebody who curates products that are designed and sold by others, designed and manufactured by others. And a creator is somebody who designs products themselves, whether they manufacture themselves or whether they feel that out. So the question is, what do people sell most of on Shopify? And why does that really matter? Well, depending on what kind of product you sell, you probably have a very different workflow, a very different day-to-day, and you also offer a very different end experience for your consumers on the other side. So if we look at some data on what people are actually selling on Shopify, what we see is the answers 2 and 3 are for those who design and manufacture or do not themselves, and then we're looking at about 62% of people who design their own products that they sell on Shopify, and about 45% who sell products designed by others. So you'll probably notice here the data doesn't add up to 100, and that's because many stores sell multiple types of products. So you might have an art store that sells evening classes. You might have a clothing store that sells both their own designs and the designs of others. You see here our services, digital downloads, and fundraising categories are much on the lower side because that's not typically what we've designed our platform for. However, this is where you've helped us reach our goal of making the important things easy and everything else possible by stepping up there in terms of the apps and the extra support that you provide these groups. Now, with the release of some of the APIs that you heard this morning and that you'll hear more of over the next day and a half, we really hope to open the floor to you to provide more support to increase these multi-product businesses on the platform. The next question we asked was about retail stores. So how many retailers on our platform actually have a physical retail store? So the numbers dropped slightly within this sample this year, but typically we're looking at about 1/3 of the platform who sell in one or more permanent retail stores. Many more sell in other people's stores too. Now that's huge. That's a huge number of stores and a huge opportunity. Because as much as our point-of-sale software has been growing, we definitely haven't tapped out that market yet. Further to this, we asked them a question about their plans for the coming year. What do they hope to do? Are they going to grow, stay the same, get smaller? And this is where things get really interesting because you can see that it's significantly increased in terms of those who hope to upgrade or add more stores in the coming years. The number of stores staying the same has dropped. So there's opportunity here to provide better products and services to support the planned growth of these stores. The last question we also asked this subset of merchants was about their POS awareness. Do they know about our product? So here we want to really move the bar on the people who have said yes, but they're not currently trying it, and those who haven't heard of it. So you can see those numbers are getting a bit better over time because our point-of-sale software isn't that old. The product's only been around for a couple of years. But given that we typically see higher GMV from stores who have a retail element in their business, this is a particularly lucrative segment for us to tackle together. So for the first time this year, we started asking about their warehouse setup. So looking at this data shows that almost 45% are either already using warehousing or are planning to this year. And that's about 6% or 5% who are hoping to get one up and running. So how can you, as the community, help your customers with these services? Because as we know, warehousing really simplifies operations, but there's a lot of complexity involved, especially at the start. So there's a lot of time spent there, and what can we do to help? So further to that, what are the broader challenges that our merchants are facing in the coming year? So here there's one primary thing that's coming out, and that is growth. So brand awareness, expansion, advertising, marketing. And what's so hard about this is time for merchants, right? Because for anybody who's running their own business, and I'm sure you feel this in your own businesses too, most of your day-to-day is just keeping your head above water. So you're dealing with all the time-sensitive things that are coming in. You've got a million things coming at you. So where do you find time for the growth? Digging a little bit more into marketing, we find that typically merchants really struggle with the marketing aspect of running their Shopify stores. And looking at this data here, we see on the third line, so people are feeling increasingly overwhelmed over the last couple of years at the prospect of marketing and the various options that are open to them. And it's little wonder, because it's a minefield. They consistently rate their Google AdWords and SEO experiences as being really difficult, where they prefer social and email as different forms of marketing because that's a lower barrier for them. And we know you know this, because if I search marketing on the App Store, there's 13 pages of results. But how can we look at different ways to really help them with this time and skill barrier that they're feeling? Recently, we ran a study where we looked at what people were doing in terms of their marketing activities and what priority they were placing on them. And it was pretty low. It was a when you have time activity. People were doing it in the evenings and in the weekends, comparatively with more time-sensitive tasks like answering customer queries or fulfilling orders on a day-to-day basis. Now, there were lots of apps in the app stores that people were finding extremely useful in terms of helping them with their marketing. But there was one that really elicited a different type of response, and that was Kit. Is anybody from Kit actually in the audience? No, okay. And Kit was great because, for those who aren't aware of it, it's basically a virtual marketing assistant. And it uses SMS to preemptively contact merchants, mostly in the morning, and ask them really simple questions, activity-wise, for that. And it was so great because it made complex decisions approachable. It lowered the barrier to entry. It made merchants feel confident. It made them efficient. And while it didn't work for everybody, the majority we spoke to said it really helped them build a baseline from which to take their skills forward. So this is a great example of an app that understood what its users were thinking and feeling and taught them how to get from step 1 to step 2. So for you, how can you better support your clients with marketing? Whether that's recommending the best apps for SEO, whether that's building more partnerships within your own groups, whether that's helping them develop their marketing plan. Perhaps it's suggesting new apps or building new apps. Now, the next question we asked was about app reliance. So we've got so many apps in the App Store and such a high usage, but how much do people really rely on these apps? If the App Store were to disappear tomorrow, what would happen? And it's pretty evident that that would be a terrible thing to do, because about 70% of people said that they always or frequently rely on apps to run their businesses, every day. And this, again, proves the sheer impact that apps can have on making Shopify work for individual business needs. Now, we asked merchants what their top daily struggles were when it came to Shopify specifically. And some of these are probably no big surprise. So the top 3 have been fairly consistent for the last number of years. Editing the look and feel of my store, managing products and inventory, and shipping costs and services are all very complex areas and ones that merchants frequently need help with. However, understanding website traffic and trends was a new one this year. So that actually ranked 3rd for us this year overall, and that's an emerging trend. So given the new analytics API that's being released, that's something that we can really look at as a community. How can we help merchants understand their website traffic and trends? So here's some quotes about how merchants feel about the community. So Often when I think of a new function I'd like, I search the App Store to find an easy-to-use app to accomplish it without any custom coding or headaches, and it's fully integrated, which is awesome. That's amazing feedback. That's exactly what we're going for. The whole ecosystem, apps, themes, experts, and a large family of Shopify stores and solution providers. This helps merchants feel safe. It helps them feel that they can scale with our platform. And then the third, always up, very reliable. Apps allow for expansion and customization and give us a lot of control over the back end. So this is what we're getting right. But here's some of the downsides. So the downside is the apps add up to cost a lot more than the base price of Shopify. Sure, that can definitely be an issue. Clarity of pricing can also be an issue, especially when it's scaled. The third one there, it's hard to determine what level of expertise and service you'll receive from an expert. So for sure, expectations is an issue because let's remember the majority of merchants who contact experts for the first time are also new users of Shopify. Many aren't even business owners yet. And we haven't had time to build up that trust with them, so they're vulnerable. They're not sure what to expect of us and therefore review, especially when they have mixed experiences with the expert selection process. So if we look at this center quote, the person went through 3 Shopify experts before settling on a current expert. And surprisingly, some of them never even responded to my mails. So we wanted to zero in a little bit more on that. So we did a bit more research and we found that only 24% of people were saying they were having a really great experience when it came to sourcing an expert for the first time. 50% reported not receiving any replies at all. So that's not great. Because we know that if there's a good chance that merchants won't stay with our platform if they can't find an expert that's right for them. Now, the issue is twofold because we certainly hear from experts that it's really frustrating to get low-quality leads and poorly formatted emails from people who sometimes don't even know what they really want yet. So for the last couple of months, we've been running an experiment to match smaller jobs with a budget of under $1,000 with merchants who want that type of business and are looking for those smaller work. And we're seeing up to 100% response rate with this new system, which is a great step forward. But there's always more to do. We're never done. And if I've learned anything from speaking to merchants, it's that their expectations of high standards from us are no different to their expectations from the community. They view you, as we do, as an extension of our services. We talk a lot about, at Shopify about building a trust battery. It's a really important concept to us, and one that applies to every aspect of our work, both internally and externally with our dealings with the community and our merchants. And over time, our partner community have continually showed us that they're capable of offering that level of service. So what now? Well, you're going to be hearing a lot more about our new APIs, SDKs, and feature releases over the next day and a half. I hope you can feel inspired to expand or adapt your services by knowing a little bit more about the collective issues that our merchants are facing. We want you to see the opportunities to directly address the real issues that hundreds of thousands of people are going through. If they're worried about growth, help them by building new sales channels. Help them promote their business with our new Scripts API. Empower them to understand the nuances of customers better with our Analytics API. Enable them to run their services businesses better with our Billing API. And help them expand their retail operations by building apps onto our core POS functionality to serve the needs of complex businesses. Thank you for listening. I think we probably have a couple of minutes for questions. If anybody has something really specific, please feel free to come talk to me after. But I'm also happy to answer any questions now if anybody has any. Okay, one at the front.
With the statistics you gave, I can be loud.
Oh, sure.
Did you weight those at all based on the size of the customers you're talking to? Or is it kind of...
Yeah, so some of the data is so new. We actually haven't presented the 2016 data to our own staff yet, but we didn't want to miss the opportunity to share it. So we do link that back to GMV more widely so that we can look for trends and individual trends based on GMV levels, yeah.
Did you see major differences between the lower GMV versus the higher GMV?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes. So naturally the needs of the higher GMV group are more around logistics, higher level costs, staffing, product inventory, that sort of stuff. And the lower level GMV stores are usually still struggling with things like editing themes, managing product sets and catalogs, that sort of stuff.
Office hours it is.
Great.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.